Welcome back to Trials and Triumphs, the podcast where we uncover the extraordinary stories of everyday people. Today, I'm joined by someone who has pushed past every comfort zone imaginable, Paul Victor. Paul is a world traveler, entrepreneur, and former BYU student body president who spent the last 15 months backpacking 40 countries. Along the way, he's immersed himself in different cultures, volunteered on the front lines of Ukraine, worked with schools in Palestine, and even provided aid in leprosy colonies in India. His journey is filled with adventure, but it's also been shaped by personal struggles, self-doubt, and pivotal moments of growth. Now, Paul is channeling everything he's learned into co-founding a travel company designed to help others experience the world in meaningful ways. Paul, I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to be here today.
Tell us where you're joining us from.
So I am currently in Salt Lake City, Utah. I just got back from, traveling a lot of different places. So currently at the moment in Salt Lake City.
We love it. As we dive in to get to know about you, set the stage a little bit. Tell us about your early life and background.
Yeah, for sure. For those of you guys who don't know me, I grew up not too far from here in Cottonwood Heights, Utah. Both my parents are from India. My dad was actually one of the first 22 converts in India. Started the church there, and then went on a mission. Got called to Salt Lake City back in the early 80s. And after his mission, just never went home. He stayed here in Utah, worked, and I think got married. He went back to India, had an arranged marriage. That's how he married my mom. Brought her to Utah. Yeah, crazy. Yeah. And then my mom joined the church on her own experience. So that's kind of the backstory of how my family came from South India to Utah. And, I have a younger brother. We both went to school at Hillcrest here in Utah. We both went to BYU, and we both served missions, and graduated with my degree in business strategy from the Y, and served in New Jersey for my mission. And like you said, backpack 40 countries, and here I am.
Yeah. As we look into understanding who Paul is, give us an idea of who Paul was before he went on this big backpacking adventure. So probably you were still in college. What were you doing? What was it like?
Yeah, I think in college I was trying to figure out who I was and the direction I wanted to take my life in. As many incoming freshmen going to college, it's just a completely new, clean slate from high school. For me in high school, I really didn't know anybody, didn't have too many friends. It was usually high school I really don't talk very fondly of, but coming to college, a lot of things changed for me. But throughout those 4 years, I kind of figured out the path I wanted to take and who I wanted to become.
That's really quite the journey. Let's dive into what has shaped you to be who you are today.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's adversity or challenge or experiences with your family growing up. I'm sure that is probably really interesting growing up in Utah with your parents being from India, knowing Utah being predominantly not Indian.
No, I mean, somebody like you could probably relate. We've probably had conversations like this before. And the audience, if they're from Utah and a minority, I'm sure they're not oblivious to this. But I mean, I think you're right. As far as being a minority in Utah, it's not easy. I think because you're trying to fit in with everybody else. It's a different culture. For me, I actually got bullied quite a bit and didn't have. That's probably why I had high school. I don't think of high school too fondly. I've been thrown in trash cans and stuffed in lockers. This was me. Yes. Oh, had awful experiences. And having immigrant parents who didn't really understand American culture, there's things I wanted to do, but my parents are they're very strict and very overprotective, since I am also the firstborn. So that kind of also added a little bit of overprotectiveness. So I also felt since I've learned, a lot of this can be changed with how you perceive the world. But, I think I just backlash and man, I'm not sure everybody's racist or they just hate me because I'm brown. Or, these things, dating is also very difficult. So, but that kind of all changed in my first week of college. You asked me, what are those turning points that changed me? College, definitely one of them. I heard my first week of college, Nobody knows who your past is. You have a clean slate. And the other one was you can fake it till you make it. And so with all this in mind, I was like, okay, I like meditated in my room for like 2 or 3 days, just envisioning like the type of person who I wanted to become, like a really popular guy who was very
Whoa.
social. And I just kind of like, I'm not sure if you've seen like Dragon Ball Z, but like they mentally are like in that chamber. They're like mentally fighting, and they're projecting their future self. So that's kind of what I was doing. And then in my patriarchal blessing, it says like you have like the gift of courage. I think that also helped just for me to go out, pretend to be a new person, and I was like talking with everyone, pretending I was super popular, and just I think everybody got onto that. And then over those years, it became from faking it to actually I became it. So I had a newfound sense of confidence, happiness. I just I didn't let life affect me. I started to have an outward force on life.
That's really exceptional because I never would have known any of that based on how you portrayed yourself at BYU. You
Hmm.
were exceptionally confident. You knew everybody and everybody knew you. And so it's really cool to see that this experience has shaped how we see you now.
Mm, yeah. Part of, me, I love to connect with people. Maybe that was always the case, but I think also because I've kind of been on the other side of the spectrum of not having any friends, I think I know what it feels like to be in that situation. It's just very sad. And I think when I see other people who might be in that situation, I just have a natural affinity to go out to them first, whether it's a conference or whatever it is, and just talk to people. And I also had a profound experience in high school that also kind of shaped the person who I am, which is in my house. My dad rents the basement to tenants. One tenant, his name was Donald, and a nice guy. He had some mental issues, but super. He would always come talk to us. He's just one of those people on your mission. They just talk and talk and talk, and they don't know when to stop. And you're trying to. So he was like one of those people. So over time, our conversations was like, "Hey, Donald, we got to get going. Like, nice to talk to you." He even helped me with my Eagle project. Nice guy. But then one day I came home, and like all this time I was kind of brushing him off. It's like it's Donald. You know, it's more of an imposition on my life. And then one day I came home and I noticed this foul smell coming from my room. The next day, I didn't mind it. The next day, I had these big bot flies on my window, and it just peculiarly. The third day, it just got the smell got so intense. And my room is on. I live on the upstairs. By the third day, I went outside and I looked in the windowsill, like the ground windowsill, and I saw Donald had committed suicide. And that was a very traumatic experience for me. And learning how that all happened, and I think that really stuck out to me because I felt like I could have done something more, uh, and I just let that kind of slide and just like, he's just another person. Since then, I learned like President Monson's thing: never let a person to be loved more important than a problem to be solved. And I had a similar experience on my mission. Like I had one of my close friends from high school also commit suicide, my first transfer out there. And he reached out to me by email, and I was just too busy with the missionary work and never got back to him. And for the longest time, I felt like maybe if I responded to the email, it wouldn't have played the way it did. But since then, I've learned that's not the case. But I think having such dark or like really deep experiences has helped me shape, to be student body president or just connect with everybody and really care, or at least I try to care about everybody I meet.
Wow, what intense experiences to shape your upbringing.
Yeah, the few of many.
It's pretty intense. I guess as we shift
Mhm.
from thinking about your upbringing, let's shift into the trial you wanted to talk about today. What is the significant challenge or adversity that you faced in your life that you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, there's so many things. Most pertinent thing that's more recently is am I good enough? That's the biggest thing I've always struggled with, especially if you come from Asian household. The expectation your parents set, the community sets for you. You're just expected to do so much, and when you're in Utah, it's hard not to compare yourself to other people. And so all my life I've been kind of dealing with this. Am I good enough? Is the path I'm on the correct path compared to where I think I should be, or if I made a different choice? And I think from that kind of, there's a lot of, if you're in the wrong headspace, has led for me to have a lot of depression or anxiety and stuff like that. So recently I've been starting to address that. And that's the topic I was thinking of talking about.
That sounds exceptional. Let's start to dive in here. How did this challenge impact you initially, and what were your immediate reactions?
Great question. I think initially, I don't know if there was like an initial point. I think I grew up the first 18 years in high school thinking this is who I am. I mean,
Yeah.
it sucks to say, but like my parents, at least my dad is great. He takes care of me, but he's just naturally very negative person. And anything I try to do, he says it's stupid. Don't do that. He tries to pull me down, and maybe that stems from his own history. I don't know his own life, but like I know that I was in family reunions, and my dad would say to everybody in the family reunion, "Oh, this is my son. He has no friends. Like help him make friends," or something like that. Like public humiliation. Or my parents would say, growing up, like, "Oh, you're stupid," or "You're dumb," or just like "You're ugly." All these things. And so you hear for 18 years, and I honestly, that's who I thought I was. And so that's why I struggle, and I'm still working through that. I still believe like all those things your parents will teach you as a kid, they just kind of ingrain in you. So initially, I think it was just from, my childhood, and the breakthrough point was leaving that environment, going to college, going on a mission, surrounding myself with other people of different mindsets, and starting to realize that, okay, it's all mindset, and this needs to change if I want anything to happen with my life.
Wow. And I'm sure part of that stems from the fact that they're probably trying to protect you from their previous experience or what they've
Mm,
seen. But
mm,
that's crazy. I guess along
mm,
this path of realizing through the first 18 years of life and to where you are today, were there any
mhm.
turning points or pivotal moments along this journey?
Mm, you know what? I think there's like four or five like really profound ones. I've already mentioned like my first week of college, like how to
Yeah.
like really just envisioning becoming like we say becoming a new creature kind of deal. That plus running for student body president at BYU, that was kind of a prompting, and I just ran for fun because I was wanting to make friends. I never actually thought I would win, and I was going against some guy who was like on this dating show that everybody knew who he was, and some other guy was like eventually he's working for NASA. So I was like, I have no shot. And so, I mean, during even the elections, I just skated around playing a ukulele. I would even stand next to my competitors' booths with flyers, their own flyers, handing out to just people on. I still remember this, just handing out to random students saying, "Hey, this guy's running for student body president. Will you vote for him?" And people didn't realize I'm the competitor. I'm also in my ticket's also in the hat. So you could tell, like, I don't care. I really cared about people, making friends and connections. Like, I offered to cook curry for all these people who are running for president, and I won by a landslide on accident. I really never wasn't in the working, but from that, I realized that was a turning point. Like, okay, I maybe I am something of greater value, and I have something to offer. And that kind of gave a new profound confidence that year of student body president, and so that was a great turning point. Another one was how I got my internship in Congress. Another prompting, but while I was student body president, had a dream to go to DC. Long story short, I woke up from my dream. I actually bought a ticket to DC. I went back to bed. In the morning, in my email, it said non-refundable ticket. And I basically asked a bunch of people, like, I've never been to this place. I don't know why I'm going. I'll be there for like 7 days. I ended up going there. I remember landing in the airport. I didn't even realize how cold it was during Thanksgiving. I didn't even have a proper jacket. And my
Oh
roommate basically
no.
said, "Yeah, I just knew I had a feeling I should be here." And long story short, my I met some people at church. They heard like why I'm out here. I'm trying to figure out something. They gave me the keys to their car. I drove wherever I wanted. They let me stay in their like multi-million-dollar mansion. And I teach people how to cook curry. So I took all their ingredients from their house, and I found some interns who worked on Capitol Hill. I offered them to cook curry, chicken curry one night. And one guy loved it so much that the next day, the day I'm supposed to fly back, he gave me a tour of the Senate in the House, and I met some people there, got somebody's card from the senator's office, and then a year later, after this experience, I snuck into Silicon Slopes, pretended to be a news anchor from ABC, snuck into the VIP section and talked to the senator and said, "Hey, I'm student body president of BYU. I know back a long time ago you were as well. I would like an internship." And that's how I kind of got my internship in Washington, D.C., working for Senator Mike Lee. So kind of faking a new profound confidence. My high school self couldn't even dream or imagine me pulling off a stunt like that.
Bold.
Yeah. But the more experience you have like this, it becomes ingrained in me. It's like, okay, like you have a new profound confidence, you know? So I really think back to those moments, like when was I the most confident? And those are what comes to mind.
That's exceptional. Before we dive in further, for you, what spurred that level of confidence? That doesn't come out of nowhere. Where did that come from?
Wow, that's actually a great question. Okay, I think, a lot of it comes from the spiritual side of things, really. It started on my mission, learning about the gospel. I really didn't read the Book of Mormon. I kind of just went on a mission because everybody goes on a mission. You know how it goes. Halfway through my mission, started to have some profound scripture study experiences, and just I realized in my patriarchal blessing, it mentions like I have a unique gift of hearing and heeding the promptings of the Spirit. And just that coupled with some experiences, I kind of found like, okay, I know this is a prompting, how the promptings come to me specifically. And if I act upon this prompting, at least something will happen. And from my mission, running for student body president actually happened on my mission. And this was years before I actually ran. It was like some kind of thought, you should run for student body president. There's no way my mission self, I'm trying to figure out myself, would even think about it. But over the years, that thought never left my head. Same thing with traveling the world. Had 18 months of every day, you need to travel the world after graduation. And miracles happened after that, or, just a lot of promptings. These are all spiritual promptings for me. Yeah.
So for you, a lot of the confidence comes from being grounded in your spirituality and knowing that things are like the way is provided for you. You just need to follow that intuition or that voice.
I think a large part, for sure, especially for those very profound moments. But like on another level, like it's really the friends I've surrounded myself with. The 5 closest people you hang around are, the type of, you become the average of them, high tides raise all ships kind of deal. So I've noticed that if I'm hanging around with people who are also very positive or very confident, you tend to emulate and try to reciprocate those kind of attributes as well. So yes, the profound moments of being grounded spiritually, but also the environment and the people I'm surrounding myself with. And I know like reading books, podcasts, and just trying to practice, personal development has also helped.
Way cool. Rolling back to this journey, I guess what I would love to learn more about is the steps that you took to overcome this adversity. Like, how did you overcome it?
Well, I think what happened in my first week of college, but another prompting to go travel. I backpacked 40 countries in 15 months. And I think I was like a couple months into my trip, I found myself in the Netherlands, and some girl called me and said, "Hey, there's this YSA conference for all of Europe. It's happening in Denmark. You can buy my ticket. I just can't go." But it was so expensive to fly there in the time frame I needed to make it to Copenhagen. My only option was to hitchhike. And at this moment, I am petrified. I really have a lot of fears. I'm afraid of heights. I'm afraid of public speaking and giving presentations. And I'm really afraid of hitchhiking. But I had no other option, and I knew I needed to get to this YSA conference. So I remember vividly, I still remember walking into, it was a nice, bright, sunny day in Holland, went to a park, prayed, and I meditated again and just kind of imagined like what are the pros and cons and what am I afraid of hitchhiking and what's the worst thing that's going to happen. And I think for me, rejection is a big thing. I really fear rejection. and just kind of meditating over that. I fell asleep. I woke up, and then I just kind of like, okay, I'm ready. I went out, got like a cardboard sign, and I wrote Maastricht, which is the town I was trying to get to. And then I wrote on the sign everywhere, nowhere, north and south. And I just had and I just wanted to see what would work. And I went on the street, on the freeway entrance, and I set my little stopwatch to see how long I would stand out there. So I clicked the stopwatch, flipped over my sign, and then some girl immediately pulled over and said, "Hey, I'll take you. That's where I'm going." So in 8 seconds, I got picked up. And this nice lady was going to the airport. She was going to Greece. And great conversation with just this random stranger who was willing to pick me up. And I was like, wow, this wasn't so bad. And she actually took me to her house and fed me lunch and introduced me to her sister. And like, I was not expecting any of that. And that was the first domino. And then for the next 10 days, I hitchhiked all the way from Netherlands, all the way to Copenhagen. And then after this Festa Nord event was over, I was hitchhiking to Sweden, and I met this Icelandic guy, this girl from Switzerland. They were also members of the church, and we wanted to go to Norway, but we didn't have a way to get there. And it's like $800 a day to like rent out a car, expensive. So we leave, and I throw up my thumb as we're like talking, and some random guy from Texas pulls over and says like, "Hey, hop in." And we convinced this random guy to take us on a 5-day like trip all around Norway. So for 10 days, I hitchhiked. And if I didn't meditate in that park that one day, who knows what I would have missed and overcoming the fear of hitchhiking and my self-confidence issues. So that was one profound moment.
Wow. I never would have thought. Like, that's pretty incredible. First of all, 8 seconds for the first one?
Yeah. I mean, I think the Lord was trying to show me, like, maybe if I stand there for like the whole day, I would have kind of got myself beat up. And it's like, man, this is embarrassing. Everybody's telling you no. But I'm glad it happened so quickly. And I had such a positive experience on my first run, because that empowered me there was some places I was standing for hours, but I knew I already had a positive experience, and those negative self-thoughts that I had would be kind of pushed away, because I've already know hitchhiking works. I've had good experiences, so yeah, I really think about those moments when I'm going through the trials.
That is really quite exceptional. What I'm thinking about is some of these steps that have led you to overcome some of this self-doubt here part of it is you're going head into the things that you fear. Right? Like you feared hitchhiking, and you're like, cool, I'm going to do it anyways.
Yeah. I mean, how else will you overcome it? Reading books, podcasts, sure, they might help, but like physically actually doing the thing that makes you afraid of, I think now I'm coming to realize is the only way, and with practice, is the only true way to overcome that.
I love that a lot. As you know, I've been looking for work for the last little bit, and interviews used to scare me. Now that I do them all the time, they don't scare me anymore, and I feel a lot more confident stepping into them. So I think action is one of the only ways to overcome fear and self-doubt. Is not knowledge. I mean, part of it is knowledge, but knowledge without action will not get you there.
That's true. I really like what you said there. I mean, I think there's paths that make it easier for you to face your fears head on. If you have, like, going back to your good friends who are supporting you and pushing you to, whether it's dating or getting this job, if you have a good community pushing you and, having the knowledge how to do it when you get there will build some kind of confidence. There are steps, but at the end of the tunnel, you have to face it all by yourself. And that's where the ultimate change happens. But you can set yourself up in baby steps to build little amounts of confidence until you are comfortable with yourself and standing at the position where you can face that thing.
I couldn't agree more. Were there any other steps along the journey of this adversity that you wanted to share with us today?
I mean, there's so many things. I think my current one is like dating and like career path. Those are the two. Now that I've traveled the world, I've kind of satiated that bucket of, I might not ever have another chance to travel when I don't have responsibilities of kids or a career. Now that it's all over, I'm faced with the reality of like, what job am I going to do? What is my career path going to be? How I'm going to contribute to society? Like how will dating work? So I mean, there's so many things, but I think the one that I think more relevant as far as what I'm trying to currently actively work on for me, this is where I'm getting more vulnerable. Most people, they'll just be shocked to know, but like I've never really dated in Utah. Girls are just very intimidating. It's really rejection for me. The idea of being rejected personally, it's just so damaging, at least to my mental psyche. And a lot of it has to do with how I grew up, how my parents, conditioned me. Like, oh man, they told me all these negative things. So at the core belief, I still maybe believe it in that old Paul. So trying to break out of that, like dating, am I really worth it? Am I, attractive enough? Do I have anything of value to offer? And for the longest time, I've never dated until like only a couple months ago. I actually went on dates on my own accord. Like I had some friends that would send this text to this girl while I was in college or try to set me up on a date, but I never did, or very few, if any. But I should mention, after my trip, I settled down in Thailand. I was living there for 4 months. I went to the gym every day for 4 months, did Muay Thai training, got myself in like physical condition. Yeah. I think talking about earlier, doing the small steps of confidence to build yourself up. Then I started to feel really great. It was the first time I felt really great about my physical body, and then just kind of, getting some good clothes. Everything is cheap in Thailand. You can live like a king for very cheap. And I had a really good friend from New Orleans I met at a hostel. We ended up living together, and he has his own business. So I was learning how to start businesses, and he was like, okay, let's go on the street and go contact some girls, blah, 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 and help me, make a Tinder profile. We ended up going to the Philippines for a month. I'm filming some YouTube videos about ISIS territory down there. While I'm in the Philippines, try to go on some dates. So I go on Tinder, and it's the first time I got like 5,000 matches in the first month. Like, also, yeah, it's a different demographic too. I have to mention it. Now I do believe there is a bubble in Utah. I know people say that, but once I actually left, I was like, whoa, you're just a different individual when you leave this place. So, I mean, just the personal validation of getting all these matches was like, man, that kind of, and what the girls would text me, that kind of really added to my confidence that I would have never gotten in Utah. I really needed to go to the Philippines, and then went on a whole bunch of dates there. I actually had a girlfriend for a short while out there, and it kind of demystified dating, rejection, and all these things. I actually think it's actually quite fun now. Like dating, I can look forward to. I mean, I've had some bad dates for sure, but when it goes well, man, I kind of wish I had this kind of self back when I was in college. But to each in its own due time and place. Maybe it happened at this time for me for a reason. Now I'm focused on dating now that I'm in Utah, but like going through that experience of transplanting myself into a different environment, having Leroy, the guy I was living there, who was already like a player, very confident guy, very successful, like kind of mimicking, emulating his attributes, and then just basically going on my very first date in the Philippines. I was petrified, but after it all went down, it wasn't that bad. And then I had a couple great dates, and then after having a girlfriend, it's like I don't know what I was so worried about. So now coming back to Utah, that's my next thing is dating in Utah. It's a different environment I'm in, but at least I have the self-confidence from my past experiences to bring that to this demographic. And so that's currently where I'm at.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that journey on dating. I know that it's a little more vulnerable to share about
for
something
sure
like that, especially something that's going to be public. So I appreciate you sharing your story in the hopes that the other listeners can learn from your experience and hopefully bolster their confidence. And maybe it's branching out to a different area like you did and exploring something different out of their comfort zone. Or maybe it's finding a friend or a mentor that can help them along the way. And that's really, really helpful.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Before we journey to this other side that you were thinking about talking about of career, is there anything else you want to add about the dating aspect and finding confidence there?
I think I kind of mentioned like the main thing. I hope just I think the main thing that people might take away, at least if you know me personally or you come to know me, you might think I'm a very confident guy, which I'm definitely more so than I was before. But you just never know when you meet people what they're going through or what their fears are. And so it's easy. I'm not saying like it's easy to judge, but sometimes people will get the wrong preconception. So hopefully if people like hear where I came from to the person they see me, like they know that it's all, you're not born with the way your personality is. You can learn and you can grow and you can overcome these things. So I think that was kind of the point, like doing the certain things in order to put you in the right places to become to where you want to get. So I think I kind of mentioned everything as far as that front goes.
I appreciate that a lot. I guess let's dive into this other side then while we have you.
Well, Julian, I don't know. There's much inspiration right now from my career front because that's the main thing I'm currently struggling with. Like, got back from my trip, don't have really any corporate experience. Like my whole 2 months. I mean, you're probably in the same boat looking for a job. It's a very scary place to be in. Like, especially as we get older and you look at your peers, like I guess at the end of the day, I'm still trying to figure out. I kind of know which career I want to do: leadership coaching, consulting, or if it's like entrepreneurship and building this business with my friend, this travel company. Or I could also see myself as a content creator, traveling around the world, and but these are not very safe, risk adverse career options. They don't come with any money at the beginning, starting your own business, and you never know if it could flop. I've heard people do YouTube for 10 years and they never make a dime. And I just don't want to be in that place, walking that path if I do dedicate it, and then look back and like, man, this didn't make any money. And I tried my hardest and I could have spent that time doing finance or something else. So I'm currently trying to talk to a bunch of, different people and see like, should I do an MBA right now? Go back to school? Maybe being in that environment of being in school, could buy me a couple years. But, I've also gotten advice against doing an MBA without having a corporate experience. So, yeah, I mean, like that's currently in the position I'm at right now. I don't know. I'm just talking to a lot of people and trying to explore different options. And I'm doing like pharmaceutical trials right now to try to make ends meet and stuff like that. So that's just my current situation right now.
That makes total sense. As you've navigated this journey, has your confidence grown or waned? And I guess what has been affecting that at all?
That's a great question. I think I'll be honest with you. My confidence is waning for sure. Like I'm applying for jobs. I'm not even hearing back. I'm not even getting any interviews. I also know my performance in school. I was trying to work on my social aspect, and that, took a toll on I have a good GPA, but just as far as like, I couldn't tell you anything from my major. I did business strategy. I'm not a consultant. I can't I don't have those hard skills. All I have is soft skills. So when it comes to applying for jobs, if people are asking me, what can you offer? All I can say is like, I traveled, I broke a Guinness World Record. I was just some accolades and some stuff that really doesn't get me anywhere. So talking to all these people and trying to do something, it really hasn't built my confidence. But, that's kind of where it starts is I've had experiences in the past. I can bring a lot of value. I can't always take a boot camp, or we have AI, we have the internet and YouTube. You can always learn, and I can always, learn these skills and develop something and actually achieve. Like I'm not confined to my room, destitute to be like a hermit. So I'm pitching to iHub today, this company, to get some investing. Like I'm trying to talk to a bunch of people and just go out and just cast a wide net and talk to a bunch of people and see if they have opportunities. So, but my confidence isn't where I'd like it to be currently, right now, yet.
Thanks for sharing that. I know that's not easy.
Yeah. And I know when you want to bring like people on your podcast, you want to show your audience, I'm sure, like, oh, look at where this person is or coming. But I'm currently walking that path right now. I'm eating my own foot as far as that confidence thing in different aspects of my life. And it's a never ending cycle.
I think for me, what's important to showcase is what's real. And to showcase how people have overcome. That's the goal here. And it's great to see that you've been able to share what you've been able to overcome and where you've come now. But I think it's really humbling to see that once you've overcome something, usually there's another thing to overcome. That's just part of life. Right?
Yeah, it's never ending, it seems like. But yeah, yeah.
So I think that's totally normal. I don't think that's a bad thing by any means. I
Mm,
think if there's nothing else here on this aspect, let's transition to the lessons learned section of the podcast.
sure.
Like looking back, what's the biggest lessons that you learned through this
Mm.
experience?
Well, I think, some people ask that question, like, what would you tell your younger self 10 years ago? Now that I've done the things, like, my younger self looking at me currently today would be shocked, could not even fathom doing the things that I did. And so I think the most important lessons that got me from that point to where I am currently now, one is probably my profound belief, understanding, and like dedication to the gospel of Jesus Christ. Like when I remember there's some times traveling or when I'm really low, like I don't know how people who don't have a belief, at least in something, get through life. And just when it comes to like when I'm struggling with something, I've just found some comfort in like, Jesus Christ and the gospel. I can pray and I can feel his love and I know everything will turn out right. I think that's one aspect. That's one of the biggest main takeaways is being close spiritually. I think the next biggest thing I would say is life. I have two mottos. All my actions that I do are basically dictated because this is kind of who I am. My two mottos are, to me in this world, there are no strangers, just friends I haven't met yet. My second motto that I learned from my mentor is I seek to add value to everything I touch or everyone I meet. So these two things really envelops the case of life is all about relationships and people. They say in the church, like the two things you take to you when you die is the knowledge you attain and the relationships you make in this life. And I really do believe that. And I think I do. I don't know. You never know who you're sitting next to on the bus or you're talking to at the Wendy's line. But I've noticed when I talk and open my mouth and I genuinely care about learning about that person, it's not about yourself and what do you have. Networking is not about what you can give and take. It's all about what can you offer to other people. And in my experiences, as long as I'm trying to offer people, I'm sure it will come around positively again in the future. As long as you don't have to seek to have gain from something and you just try to give without expecting anything in return. I think that was one of the biggest lessons that really shaped me to who I am today. Just really caring. A lot of it's about communication and just having empathy for other people and surrounding yourself with like 2 or 3 really good friends that you look up to. And I would say, I didn't believe this before, but the impact of having a mentor, somebody who is already successful, like all mentors really have mentors. They can kind of show you the pitfalls that they've taken you, and they really accelerate your growth on where you want to come, or they can connect you with people. So finding a mentor, and I've asked myself, how do you find a mentor? Like, how do you have them take you under your wing? How do I know? Like, mentors are so busy. For me, I cook curry for people. So I would go to all the CEOs or all the people and say, let me come to your house and cook curry for free, just as a friend. And through those conversations, it seems less of a mentor and more of like I'm co-creating with somebody. You're also adding value to them. You're a part of their life, and because you're so young, people want to invest in you. You're an investable. That's why everybody loves college students so much. You're pliable. They want to invest in you because they know they can make an impact for whatever you will do later on. So finding a mentor is probably the third biggest thing I would say.
Some great advice to live by. I think that's really awesome. I agree with you that as mentors can accelerate your growth like none other. Not only do they see the way before you because they've lived it,
Mm-hmm.
but also to have someone to cheer you on and give you resources that you wouldn't have otherwise. Like that confidence that comes from
Mm-hmm.
someone believing in you. Extraordinary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As
Yeah.
we As we wrap up here, I have one last question for you, Paul.
Go for it.
Can you share a moment when you realized you'd overcome the adversity and what that felt like?
Hmm. Okay. I mean, man, a couple things come to mind. I've shared my experiences of like dating in the Philippines and coming here, or like student body president. I'm just trying to think of um, what it felt like. Okay, I'll say I'll say this. The day I think, okay, I'll go with the student body president thing because that's really where all my other experiences took off from. That was the initial moment of true profound confidence that that still lags with me today. And to preface, BYU, it's not like a high school thing. This is a college of like 33,000 students, and and BYU is quite a prestigious school. I think we're like top 20 in the nation by some report, some like a couple years ago. And so it's a big deal. And the fact that I just ran and I had a whole team supporting me, I couldn't have done it without this team in particular. And the night that they announced, like, oh, Paul Victor is the next student body president, I'm now feeling it again. Now that I relive it, like come with like overwhelming emotion, like wow, I can't believe like disbelief, probably B, my life is going to change forever, and 3, like imposter syndrome. Like, how did I beat the other 2 guys who were way more popular than me? Like, I don't feel like I deserve this. Those were the 3 feelings, and just but that night, going to bed, and the next week, everybody coming up to you. And so for me, I really lacked like validation, external validation. I really didn't get like congratulations or like, man, you did a great job. But having thousands of text messages and just people saying, man, congratulations, president. And, from that, I walked with a new profound self of confidence. And for me, I think I needed that. Like, if it wasn't for that experience, I'd probably be safe to say, I don't know if I would have like broken Guinness World Records and worked in Congress and traveled the world. And I think I would have just kind of been stuck in my old self, just like too afraid to do anything hard. And just, I think that's kind of, I think that's probably the one that comes to mind as the major turning point in my life.
Thanks for sharing that, Paul. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing your experience. What comes to my mind is this aspect that I've been thinking about. I've been thinking about confidence quite a bit lately, so it's fun that you've chosen to speak on that today. What I've come to some conclusion on is the fact that for me, my confidence doesn't come from knowing everything, from knowing every outcome, from knowing how things are going to work out, but it comes from knowing that regardless of what's going to happen, I can handle things as they come.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you feel that same way too, but that's kind of the
No, actually,
conclusion I've come
I'm
to
actually
that
glad
helps me stay
you're
confident.
mentioning this now. Say that again. I think it cut out there.
Oh no, keep going.
No, I actually, now looking back, I'm really glad before ending that you're talking about this, because I think confidence comes from 2 places: external and internal validation. For me, and maybe this is not the wrong way. Most people say, "Man, you're getting external validation. That's where your confidence comes from." Um, I think true confidence comes from knowing who you are, and doesn't matter anything about what job or status, family, or anything what other people believe, as long as you know who you are and the path you're walking on. And that's a different level of confidence. Now that I think that's the next stage for me, is trying to find true, genuine confidence. Most of my confidence has really come from external validation. Maybe that is why I'm seeking to do all these external accolades. Like, it's helped me get to the places I want to be. But I've had so many people like Leroy in Thailand who was telling me, man, you're looking at all these accolades. Accolades are very superficial and facetious. You need to find true found confidence. But I will say, like, I don't regret anything that I've done so far. Like, it is a part of who I am, and it has helped me. It has elevated me to the status. It's elevated to where I was to where I am. But to get from where I am to where I need to go is finding that newfound self-confidence in myself. And how I'm supposed to do that, that's actually the main struggle right now. I'm actually don't have an answer for you because I'm not there yet. I still have a lot of self-esteem issues and I lack self-confidence, at least on the inside. So, but I think by continuing to walk the path and surround myself with people and finding those things, eventually I can come back to you like, yeah, I really am confident. I don't care what other people think. And I think that's important for the viewer to know, not to look for external validation. True confidence comes from internal validation and knowing who you are.
Great insights, Paul. I think to pull it back just a tad, to give you some of at least what I've heard that you say, I remember you telling me that before you went into college, you spent a couple of days meditating. And
Yeah.
that gave you confidence. That's internal confidence. And then you mentioned as you were hitchhiking, you meditated in a park, and that's what led you to doing like this tour and actually going hitchhiking. So I think there is some internal work that you've done. There might be, it sounds like there's more that you want to develop and become that needs internal work done. But I just want to point out that you've done a lot of internal work that has given you some internal validation to keep moving forward here.
Wow, that is actually, for me, that's actually very profound. Thank you for pointing that out. Like, yeah, and I don't know what I call these moments, but I know I needed to do it like another time to overcome where I need to go, and that's dating and career. And also, like, I heard some of the top people I look up to, I never really understood this, but I'm hearing it more often. Like, they do affirmations in the mirror in the morning. I am great. I am confident. I am loved. And for me, it sounds really weird and awkward, but I think the point is, if you do it over a certain amount of time, you start to believe that for yourself. So I think that's there's so many techniques on how to build internal confidence. I'm glad you pointed that out for me, because I didn't realize that was internal confidence, and, looking at other ways how to build internal confidence.
I'm glad that you get to teach us on this podcast, but also learn a little bit too.
Oh, for sure. This has been so great. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that hopefully for the viewers, they learned something, but also for me, I took away a lot.
Paul, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you for having me.
What an incredible conversation with Paul Victor. His journey is a testament to the power of stepping out of our comfort zones, embracing the unknown, and allowing challenges to shape us into something greater. From global adventures to personal growth, Paul's story reminds us that discomfort often leads to our greatest triumphs. If you want to follow Paul's journey, learn more about his travel company, or see where in the world he's headed next, be sure to check out the show notes for his social media information. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Trials and Triumphs. If you've enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who needs a little inspiration today. Until next time, remember, every trial brings its own triumph.